Mary Tudor has gone down in history as the Catholic tyrant Bloody Mary. There's certainly cause for such a brutal nickname. She executed hundreds of Protestants during her very short reign. However, there's so much more to Queen Mary's life than her ruthless reputation. From her deranged childhood to her chilling romances, this is the untold story of England's very first queen. Mary Tudor was the daughter of Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. She was a girl, which was a bit of a disappointment to her father, but she proved to be an intelligent and skilled child. At the age of 9, Henry VIII made her Princess of Wales and sent her to live along the Welsh border while he tried to find her a husband. She was baptized Catholic at birth and became a fervent believer, which after her father broke from the church, put her in a difficult position both politically and religiously. When King Henry declared his marriage to Catherine of Aragon null and void, Mary was officially deemed a bastard. After Anne Boleyn gave birth to her own daughter Elizabeth, she had Mary declared illegitimate, knocking her out of the line of succession. This was just one of the many grievances Mary would bear towards her stepmother, resenting her long after she was executed by Henry. Once Anne was dramatically and violently removed from court and her father married Jane Seymour, he reinstated Mary, but only after she acknowledged him as head of the Church of England. For Mary, as a devout Catholic, this was a bitter pill to swallow. Mary Tudor ascended to the throne following the death of her brother, Edward VI, in 1553. Edward became king at the age of 10 in 1547 after their father's passing. During his reign, regents ruled on his behalf, and upon his death, a religious conflict arose. Catholic factions supported Mary, while Protestants called for Elizabeth to be queen. There was a brief interlude during which their royal cousin, Lady Jane Grey, was made queen by Edward's former regents. But after 9 days, she was arrested and later executed, and Mary took the throne. Mary represented a return to order, and from Mary's perspective, a return to Catholicism. Despite everything that had happened to her, Mary was a staunch Catholic. During her father's and brother's reigns, Catholicism had been forced underground. But Mary never stopped attending Mass and feeling as though she had committed religious treason by acknowledging them as the head of the Church of England. The overwhelming support she received upon ascending the throne only fueled her determination to restore England to its Catholic roots. Mary set out to do just that. She married the Catholic King of Spain, Philip II, in 1554 to strengthen her cause. Additionally, she hoped that this union would produce an heir, which would prevent her Protestant sister, Elizabeth, from ascending to the throne. Mary proceeded to revoke the religious laws established by Henry VIII and Edward VI, replacing them with her own. Furthermore, in 1555, she enacted heresy laws that prohibited the practice of Protestantism within England. Mary's marriage to Philip didn't go over well in England. The Spanish and the English were rivals at sea and in trade, and there was fear about a foreigner being let into the British royal family. In 1554, 3,000 Englishmen, led by Thomas Wyatt, staged a protest against the marriage, marching from Rochester to London. The rebellion was short-lived and Wyatt's movement was put down by royal troops. Wyatt was executed for treason, but his actions reflected larger sentiments of the time. Philip had also convinced Mary to support the Spanish in their war with France. This led to the loss of Calais in 1558, the lone English possession on the continent, an utter failure in foreign policy on Mary's part. What might be most shocking about the damage these executions did to Mary's reputation, the almost 300 people Mary killed in her efforts to stamp out Protestantism pale in comparison to the deaths that occurred during her brother's reign. During the Prayer Book Rebellion of 1549, for example, more than 5,500 people died after they were told to change their religious practice. The Prayer Book Rebellion resulted from Thomas Cranmer's issuance of the Book of Common Prayer, which included aspects of Catholic tradition and Protestant practice, and was supposed to unify religious practice in England. It made both sides unhappy and served as a symbol of religious discontent in the country. There was discontent over taxation that added to the unrest, and in the end, over 8,000 royal troops were sent to Devon to suppress the rebellion. In the ensuing chaos, thousands died, either in skirmishes or by execution. Even more people died during Henry's reign, including several of his wives. The estimates for executions while Henry was king vary from 57,000 to 72,000 people, but the exact number will never be known. There's no doubt that Henry had his rivals and enemies, real or perceived, assassinated. Some of his closest advisors, including Thomas More, met their end because they opposed his royal supremacy, while his heresy laws resulted in mass persecution as well. Mary promised the English people an heir over and over again. She announced a pregnancy in 1555, but was experiencing one of her many phantom pregnancies. In 1557, she again thought she was pregnant, but in reality was probably suffering from stomach cancer. She had been desperate to produce an heir and was never able to do so, ultimately having to acknowledge her sister as her successor in the days leading up to her death. Her Spanish marriage and persecution of Catholics didn't produce the ongoing Catholic England she had hoped for. Mary was vilified by her contemporaries, notably John Knox in the first blast of the trumpet against the monstrous regiment of women which attacked female monarchs. According to Knox, it is a thing most repugnant to nature that women rule and govern over men. Knox, a Protestant, had even more reason to dislike Mary, given her fervent support of Catholicism. He went further with Mary, though, calling her unworthy by reason of her bloody tyranny of the name of a woman. Overall, Queen Mary was portrayed as a bad queen, a failure in domestic and foreign policy, and ultimately unsuccessful in restoring Catholicism. Her efforts, resulting in the deaths of almost 300 people, were for naught. She's overshadowed by the reign of her sister, who came to the throne when Mary died in 1558, and is remembered for ushering in a golden age for England. If you do the math, Mary was pretty kind compared to her father and brother. Dividing the number of people killed by the years of the reigns leads to Henry VIII killing an average of 1946 people during each of his 37 years. Edward VI's 6-year reign had 917 deaths per year, while Mary only had 58 during each of her 5 years. Out of the 3 of them, she was certainly the least bloody.